Hello and welcome. This is Intimacy After, a podcast for mature women facing intimacy issues from various causes. Please know you are not alone. It is time to stop suffering in silence. On this podcast, we give hope that through practice of simple steps and proven tips, you can improve intimacy and resurrect your love life. Break free, learn to laugh again, to play again, to be happy, to love, and know that you are loved. I am your host, Queen. Come on inside. There you are, my sister friends. Welcome inside to another episode during the Thanksgiving season. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, or whenever it is that you are listening. I hope you realize that no matter the season or reason, you have much to be thankful and grateful for. Well, on that note, today's topic may not bring about feelings of gratitude, though. It's one that is often avoided like the plague, brings up such strong associated emotions that there are often strong arguments for or against it. Hopefully not at Thanksgiving, though, because it can bring a lot of division. So today, we are diving into a topic that's incredibly important for women who are either considering marriage or already in a late life marriage. Prenups, estates, and the impact of these legal matters on intimacy. This might not sound like the most romantic or sexiest of topic for conversation, but trust me, understanding these things can make a world of difference when it comes to maintaining a healthy, intimate relationship. Finance and the likes are cited as one of the leading causes for divorce, so sexy or not, it's definitely worth listening. You could be saving your marriage. As we grow older, marriage brings with it new questions, especially around the practical, financial, and legal aspect. And it's not uncommon for these topics to bring up emotions that can either bring us closer to our partners or create tension if you're not on the same page. Today, we'll define prenups and estate planning, break down some common myths, and talk about how these legal aspects of marriage can play a significant role in our intimacy and overall happiness in the relationship. Okay, my sister friends, so understanding prenups, what they are and what they are not, is vitally important. If you ever heard the words, "Will you marry me?" thinking of finance may cause you to pause or retract your yes later. Do not enter into a relationship without considering the financial aspect, okay? No matter how great the sex may be. And no, I do not think that building a marriage on great sex is a wise thing to do. The great sex will not last forever, so you need more than that to build on, yes? If you're both broke and have bad credits, then avoid the ledge. Have a plan to work out things financially together, mutually. Okay, so then let's start with prenups. The word prenup often stirs up a lot of feelings, and honestly, it can sound a bit intimidating or even like a sign of distrust. That was my initial thought when I got into a relationship and was considering marriage a little later in life. But a prenup, short for prenuptial agreement, is simply a legal contract a couple creates before getting married. It outlines how assets and finances will be handled if the marriage ends, either through divorce or death. You may be thinking that prenuptial agreement or prenups really only focus on if you get a divorce, but prenups also covered your wishes in regards to your finances after death. One of the biggest myths about prenups is that they're only for the rich or for people who don't trust each other. But that's simply not true. Prenups can be helpful tools for anyone, especially those of you entering marriage later in life, where you may have accumulated assets, retirement saving, or for some of you, even debts. Who wants more debts? Let's think about this through a real life example. Imagine a woman named Linda who married in her 20s, raised a family, and went through a divorce. After the divorce, she built a career, bought a home, and established retirement savings. Now in her late 50s, she's fallen madly in love and wants to marry again. Nothing wrong with that. She's thrilled, but also a bit concerned. She wants to protect the assets she's worked so hard for, but doesn't want her fiancé to feel like she doesn't trust him. Conversation, ladies, conversations. Starting a conversation can be as simple as choosing a movie star or a known public figure who had or did not have a prenup and start the conversation there. Like, oh wow, did you see that? What do you think about such and such having a prenup? Or, conversely, not having a prenup. Be prepared. Some may be blindsided. That is, the conversation may freely entails what is thought about that particular couple, but your partner may not think it's applicable to themselves. Be ready for that, though. Then is when you could kind of turn the conversation and say, well, babe, what do you think about the prenup? Not really sneaky, but you have to give some kind of grounds where you can build the conversation so it doesn't seem like you're coming way out of left field or like you're attacking your partner or your partner to be, right? A prenup in this case could help Linda and her partner have open discussions about their finances, their goals, and what each person wants to protect or share. It's not about predicting a breakup, but about understanding each other's values and respecting the past lives each person brings to the marriage. A lot of you tend to act as though nothing happened in the lives of your partners before y'all met. There was a life before, so you have to acknowledge that and respect what it is that needs to be done. And for crying out loud, this needs to be mutual. It just has to be mutual, or we're going to end up with a whole lot of conflict, right? In fact, these conversations can actually build intimacy, allowing partners to feel secure and seen in their financial identities. It seemed to me that in relationship, one person is always the spender and one is the saver. Sometimes you'll have that relationship where both kind of have the same outlook, then you're in trouble. So you really need to know what the financial or spending style is of your partner before you start going into the I do's. This can be quite heavy, a burden that can cause the mood in a room to change rather quickly. Be prepared. But let's address another myth here, that a prenup is always a negative for intimacy. The reality is, though, when handled thoughtfully, it can actually have the opposite effect and be a positive thing. Discussing finance openly can foster deeper trust, and partners can feel relieved knowing that they're entering the marriage with honesty and transparency. It allows both of you to lay a strong foundation through open discussion about money, and this can prevent misunderstanding down the road. So, right, finance can significantly impact intimacy, either building closeness or creating distance. Let's look at the positive side. Open communication about money fosters trust and security, two cornerstones of a healthy, intimate relationship. When both partners feel heard and aligned on financial goals, they often feel more relaxed and connected, allowing intimacy to flourish in the relationship. On the other hand, the negative impact is that financial stress or hidden money worries can lead to tension and resentment, which may negatively affect the bedroom. Unresolved debts, different spending habits, or secrecy around finances can create feelings of insecurity, mistrust, putting a strain on intimacy altogether. So, by addressing finances together as a couple, you can build a foundation that supports not just your financial well being, but your emotional and physical closeness too. If that is not a good reason to talk about money, then I don't know what is, right? So, next up, let's talk about estate planning. Estate planning is essentially deciding what will happen to your assets, like your home, saving, or personal belongings, after you pass away. This involves creating a will, naming beneficiaries, and possibly setting up trust. Estate planning might sound somber, sad, but it's an essential step, especially if you're marrying later in life. Imagine a woman named Carol who married in her 60s. She and her husband both have grown children from previous marriages, and they both want to ensure that their children inherit certain assets. By going through the estate planning process, Carol and her husband can make sure their wishes are respected and their children are cared for in a way that aligns with their values. Now, I hear you, sister friend. I hear you. Some of you are like, what? Estate planning? I don't have nothing to leave behind. You're like, what am I going to plan with? All I got is debt. I'm just living paycheck to paycheck. I'm trying to survive here, Queen. What you talking about? Sister friend, if that's how you're living, you can change that together. Or if you're not looking to get into a marriage anytime soon, there are so many programs and so much information out there that you can work on and work with to try to change your current situation. This podcast is not really about careers and life changes and job right now, but I tell you, you got to put you first. You have to get things aligned. And maybe it is, there's some of you, I can hear you talking back to me. Those kids are fine. I'm not going to kill myself and try to leave nothing back for them. I'm going to spend every nickel I earn. Okay, sister friend. I hear you. I am not here to tell you how to create your trust or how to do your estate planning. I'm just here to talk with you about what estate planning is and how finances and not discussing these things can negatively impact your sex life, right? It's all coming back to intimacy and sex. And anything that can affect it, we're going to talk about it here. So, without estate planning, assets can end up in legal limbo or even cause conflict between families. I know you have seen it. Someone passed away and you thought they were the most lovingest family. And then there's just all this conflict over who should get what and the money because there was no will left behind. I once spoke to a woman who went through something similar. After her husband passed away unexpectedly, his assets went to probate because he hadn't named her in his estate plan. Probate can be a long, drawn-out process that leaves loved ones with financial and emotional stress, right? So if you're stepping into a new relationship, no one's going to live forever. And you're not saying that your partner is going to die anytime soon, but preparation is key. So that should be part of the engagement, part of the marital process is the will and discussing finance and the premarital thing. That should be all part of it. So the burden is not completely on you. Now let's talk about how estate planning affects intimacy, right? When we're open about what we want our legacy to be, it can bring couples closer. Knowing that our partner cares enough to make sure your wishes are honored can be an incredibly intimate experience, reinforcing the idea that they'll be there for you until death do us part. However, estate planning can also bring up uncomfortable feelings, especially if there's worry that talking about assets will upset or hurt the other person. And this is where kindness and honesty become so crucial. Late life marriages brings unique joys and challenges. For many of you, this season of love feels especially precious. However, the practicalities of combining two established lives, families, and finances can sometimes feel overwhelming or, if avoided, can build resentment and or mistrust. Talking about prenups and estate planning might not feel sexy, but here's the truth. Intimacy isn't just physical, right? True intimacy is about feeling secure, understood, and respected in every part of your relationships. Sister friends, when you have these difficult discussions, you allow yourselves to be vulnerable and real with your partner. What can be closer than that? One of the most common myths I've heard is that talking about money, especially in a late life marriage, is too transactional and will harm the romance. But in reality, sidestepping these issues can harm intimacy far more. Now, sister friends, let's be honest. You know that you're all mental, and the minute you start to think away, you start to express that in the way you feel, your mood, the things you say. So you may not be speaking about it, but then you're snapping at your partner and they're like, what's going on? That's because you're not talking about what's bothering you. There need to be a time in every relationship where partners get together and say, okay, if it's even quarterly, we're going to have tough discussion. Write the topic on a piece of paper and put it into like a jar. So whatever it may be, finance, sex, paying, put it in that jar and you pick one and start the conversation. It's all a part of life, and these conversations need to be had. Imagine not being able to share your honest financial needs with your partner because you're afraid they'll judge you. That can create emotional distance and distress. One woman I knew, Janet, got married for the second time at age 60, and Janet had always been a saver, while her new husband was more of a spender. She worried that talking about her need for financial security would make him feel she didn't trust him. After months of tension, she finally opened up and they decided to work with a financial advisor. It turned out to be a beautiful experience. They both learned more about each other's habits and needs and felt closer because they had tackled a difficult topic together. Another unique area of interest is blended families. When blending families, prenups and estate planning become even more essential. When you and your partner each have children from previous relationship, a prenup can help outline how you want to protect assets for each side of the family. This isn't about withholding love or mistrust. It's about ensuring that your wishes for your children and stepchildren are honored. Similarly, having a clear estate plan can prevent misunderstanding or conflicts among family members after you're gone. And There are movies about how quickly relationships are broken and things goes awry when a loved one passes and it's time for reading of the will. Horror movies. I tell you the truth. Unbelievable horror movies. I know you can think of some family yourself when this kind of things happen and there's no will or it's time to read the will. Horror. Just absolute horror. These agreements can provide a clear path forward, allowing everyone to feel respected and secure. Blended families bring unique dynamics, and establishing these boundaries from the start can actually enhance intimacy by easing any hidden worries about financial fairness and legacy. Now, let's tackle some common myths and misconceptions. I got a couple from some of you out there. Thank you, sister friends, for participating and sending in these topics to discuss. I love just diving into some of this. And for transparency, when we got married, we talked about prenup, and our decision mutually was don't need it, but we did talk about it, and we did talk about families and effect, and we do have a will. So while there's no prenups, there is an estate planning as to how things should be divided. So it could be as simple as that. Not everyone need a prenup. If you're mutually agreeable that it's not needed, then it's not needed. But at least you brought it up. So do you think a prenup is necessary? Truth be told, if you are very wealthy and you lose everything, you could get wealthy again. We have to look at what really matters, right? But a will is so important. And it's not just financial will. It's also will regarding your health. We'll talk about that in another podcast. All right, so let's get into some of the myth. Myth number 1, prenups are just for the rich. We previously kind of touched on that. But as we mentioned earlier, prenups aren't just for wealthy people or celebrities. They're about protecting the assets and the plans you've worked hard to build, no matter the amount. In a late life marriage, you might want to ensure that certain personal assets go to your children, or maybe you want to protect retirement saving. A prenup is a tool that helps create clarity and security. Myth number 2, estate planning can wait. This myth can cause serious complications. None of us know what tomorrow holds, so it's wise to be proactive. Having a plan doesn't mean you're tempting fate. It means you're caring for the ones you love. In fact, getting estate planning in place early on in the marriage can ease anxiety and allow you to focus on enjoying life with your partners. I can tell you this from personal experience. When I was in the military, active duty, and if you're active duty or veteran out there listening, you know how this goes. Every time there's a conflict, and even in time of peace, they do ask you to fill out something similar to an estate planning. Who do you want to be called to retrieve your remains? How do you want your money to be divided up? Who do you want to get what amount? Will it be in a percentage or will it be wholesome? I mean, they go into detail about this. So for the ones who are out there, ladies, if you're veterans or active duty, you know this is nothing new. It's just a little different because now it's a one-on-one discussion. But nevertheless, it's a conversation that you need to have. And your life, even if impacted negatively, it'll only be for a blip, a brief moment. Myth number 3, talking about money kills romance. As we've discussed, intimacy goes beyond romance and physicality, right? When you open up about money, your hopes and your fears, you create a safe space for deeper connection. It's not the act of talking about money that causes issues. It's avoiding those conversations and letting misunderstandings build up that actually causes those issues. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's this. Having legal and financial conversation doesn't harm intimacy, it nurtures it. By facing these issues openly, you allow yourselves to become more vulnerable and authentic in your relationships. Sister friends, these conversations give you a unique opportunity to show up for each other, building a marriage where both partners feel secure, seen, and appreciated. Imagine going forward with peace of mind, knowing that you and your partner have thoughtfully planned for each other and the loved ones in your lives. That's the power of navigating prenups, estate, and late life marriages with courage and openness. Well, sister friend, I know you have choices, so I thank you for tuning into Intimacy After podcast. You may subscribe for bi-monthly alerts or stay in the know by visiting my website at queenquanta.com. That's Queen, QUANTA.com. Until next time, remember, a life without intimacy is like your favorite meal without salt. Ladies, let's spice it up. Life is beautiful and God is awesome. This is Queen, signing out.